Next up, we have two speakers, and I love this format. I love when we've two people presenting together. Keeps things fresh and interesting, and great to get the different perspectives as well. So today we have two folks who've been heavily involved in this community for a while now, and it's going to be great to hear their thoughts on things. So if you please welcome Natasha and Priyanka.
Hello everyone, can you hear me okay? Perfect. I'm Natasha Breslin, and Priyanka and I will share how we applied critical thinking and experimentation to solve a real problem with AI. And that is how we could migrate 300 repositories from Bamboo to GitHub Actions. AI can generate code, it can create diagrams, and we now can see it can even act autonomously. The opportunity is enormous, but so are the risks. When AI becomes part of how work gets done, how do we maintain that trust? When do we rely on it? And when do we question it? If we don't pair AI with curiosity and critical thinking, we risk moving fast, but in the wrong direction. So the question is, what does critical thinking look like when AI is part of our workflow? So there's a quote I really like, which is that typing code fast was never the bottleneck. Thinking is. AI gives us speed and scale, but it hasn't removed the need for thinking. If anything, it makes thinking more important because we now need to question, validate, and guide what AI produces. So let's try a quick exercise that shows why. So what is the first image that comes to your mind when you hear the word experiment? I asked ChatGPT. So the first prompt was generate a picture of an experiment. And the output was a male scientist, lab coat, and beakers. Then I asked generate a picture of an experiment in the tech industry. Now we see a laptop and a monitor, but the pattern is still narrow. And many of you probably pictured a science lab as well. And I also provided it with simple prompts, let's be honest. Notice that expectation and ask yourself what assumptions shaped it, because that is where assumptions show up. Experimentation doesn't usually look like a chemistry lab, and the people doing that work are more diverse than we just saw. AI reflects patterns, critical thinking questions them. AI is a bit like GPS. It gives confident directions, but if you follow it in autopilot, you might end up somewhere that looks right, but isn't the destination that you wanted. And that's why humans need to stay in the loop to validate that path. So this quick exercise captured the problem in miniature, and it's exactly why psychologist Diane Halpern emphasizes critical thinking. It's clear, goal-directed thinking is achieving the best possible outcomes. So it helps us question assumptions, recognize bias, and avoid common reasoning errors. And in that exercise there, we saw all three. The assumption that experiments happen in labs, the bias in who was shown doing the work, and the reason error that humans can tend to accept outputs at face value. If we accept those outputs uncritically and don't question them, we inherit the assumptions built into them. So how do we put this into practice? We pair critical thinking with experimentation. And to do this, we use the design thinking double diamond here that takes us from exploration to scaling, always grounded in hypothesis-driven thinking. The journey starts with explore. And this is where both critical thinking and experimentation happen. First, we focus on the what is, and this is where we apply critical thinking to understand our current landscape and challenge our assumptions. We ask questions such as, why do these pain points exist? Why aren't current solutions working? And we gain visual insight into business processes, pain points, and also looking for those opportunities. Once we understand the current state, we move into the what if. And this is where experimentation begins. We explore possibilities by forming hypotheses to prove or disprove with measurable outcomes, and by testing potential solutions, staying open to pivoting. We ask questions such as, what if this doesn't work as expected? What if there's a better way? And from there then we move into what wows and what works, validating ideas through proof of concepts and pilots. Only then do we recommend scaling into broader ecosystems, working always in partnership with our own business and technology teams. So today we are going to be focusing on the explore, the what is and the what if stages, where critical thinking and experimentation happen. So to apply critical thinking consistently, we use a simple lens, which is the 5 V's. Volume, velocity, veracity, visibility, and vulnerability. And you may recognize some of these from big data's 5 V's. We've adapted them here to help us think critically when working with AI. So starting with volume. AI generates more information than we can consume. So we need to filter what matters to the problem we're solving and ignore the noise so we can make better decisions faster. Velocity. AI moves incredibly fast, but speed can create false confidence. Critical thinking introduces a pause before action. Veracity. AI reasoning is often hidden. We don't always see how it's reached its answer. And this is where our diverse human perspectives matter. Human in the loop is important. Visibility. AI reasoning is often hidden, and we don't always see how it's reached its answer. So we ask, how do we know this is true? What evidence supports this? And finally, vulnerability. Over-reliance weakens our thinking if we always accept the first output, if we stop questioning. Investing in our soft skills is a differentiator. Without critical thinking, these become risks. With critical thinking, these 5 V's become opportunities. So how does the what if mindset work in practice? And it starts with exploring possibilities. And this is where curiosity opens the door to critical thinking, and it helps us frame better hypotheses. Then we turn those what if questions into a clear hypothesis, which is a testable statement about what we expect to happen. Next, we test our hypothesis in low risk, small scale ways to validate or challenge it. We run safe to fail experiments, small controlled tests that allow new possibilities to emerge and become observable. The next one is capture learning. So this is our sense and respond moment. We observe what happened, interpret the results, and then decide what to do next. So we ask questions such as, did it work as expected? Was it a success or a surprise? And finally, and most importantly, we share those learnings by surfacing those insights beyond our team so others can benefit from what we discovered. And the beauty is that each what if cycle does generate those new questions. So we keep experimenting and learning. And that's exactly the approach we use when experimenting with agentic engineering tools to help us solve the GitHub Actions migration problem. Priyanka will now show how the what is and the what if stages played out in practice with a real example.
Thank you, Natasha. So let me explain these 5 steps in action with an example. We were exploring an agentic engineering tool which can write, test, and deploy code autonomously. We started with the curiosity of what if we could use this agentic engineering tool to accelerate our GitHub Action migration, which was about 300 repositories, and free up our engineers to do high-value tasks. So this is a classic what-if example. We're not just accepting the status quo of manual work, but we are imagining a different possibility. The focus here is the volume, so we only surface the ideas which are relevant to our use case. The next step is building hypotheses. We turn that curiosity into testable hypothesis using a hypothesis template. Remember how Natasha earlier mentioned about converting the what-if questions into clear, testable statements about what we expect to happen? That's exactly what we are doing here. Notice how specific the hypothesis is. We're not just saying AI will help us, but we are actually stating what we expect to happen, which is improved migration speed and reduced error. We're also explaining why we think this will work, because the tool can consistently and accurately apply the workflow with minimal human intervention. This is very crucial because this will let us know if we are right or wrong. The focusing here is the velocity. Without jumping into conclusions or assumptions, we build a testable hypothesis. The next step is testing the hypothesis. Here is how we designed our safe-to-fail experiment. 6 weeks, long enough to get meaningful data, but also short enough that if we fail, we have not wasted months of time. We approach this from multiple angles within our experiment. Different types of migration tasks, various prompt structures, and also different levels of complexities, which allows emerging possibilities then to become our observables. Notice how our success metrics are directly tied to the hypothesis, which is speed compared to human baseline, quality through rework, and test pass rate. And also that productivity shift we talked about. Can we actually free up our engineers to do high-value tasks? The prioritizing the veracity makes the validation and correctness the center of our testing here. Because so then you can trust that your higher throughput and the speed is not producing faulty migrations or faulty results. The next step is capture learning. So we hit all the 3 targets. We achieved 70% time saving on structural tasks. The tool followed the best engineering practices given a right context. And also the engineers would be freed up to do high-value tasks, which confirmed our hypothesis. But we also had surprises. The agent struggled when you give vague requirements, and it also needed a very detailed context than we had expected. It needed a detailed prompt, like a Jira ticket, for example, like how we would write a detailed description, instructions, and also acceptance criteria. So that made us ask the question why the agent is struggling and how it mirrors the humans needing a proper requirement and clear requirements. Instead of just noting this or calling them as failures, we acted on them. We narrowed down the task scopes and improved our prompts. So this is our sense and respond loop. Using both wins and also the surprises, we refine our approach. We focus on visibility, so the decision-making process and also the model behavior are captured for others to learn, improve, and reproduce. Last but not the least, share the learnings. This is very crucial. Don't let your learning die within your team. We shared our learnings across the organization using multiple channels. We did the presentation to the leaderships. We also had a detailed documentation in our shared wikis, and also we did hands-on demo to other engineering teams. These learnings also fed into another team which were evaluating a different engineering tool and then are informing broader decisions about using the coding agents and digital employees across Liberty Mutual. It helps us understand where these agents or digital employees excel, but also where the human loop is essential. Emphasizing vulnerability promotes sharing and role rotations, so no single person or black box model becomes a single point of failure. Back to you, Natasha.
Thanks, Priyanka. So what Priyanka just showed is that critical thinking and experimentation, it doesn't have to start with something big. It can start with small structured experiments where we can get insights into our learnings earlier. And you can apply the same approach on any scale. So we're not just building better outputs, we're building better habits. Critical thinking isn't a checklist that you complete once, it's a habit that you develop over time. So starting today, spot a what-if opportunity. Notice when you're accepting the status quo and ask yourself what could be different. Frame a testable hypothesis. So turn your curiosity into something you can test. Keep it time-bound. So put clear boundaries around your experiment. Let outcomes determine next steps. Let the data inform what you do next. And build it into your ways of working. So run experiments in support of your existing delivery, not as extra work. And share what you learn so others can build on it. And finally, embrace your 2-year-old self. Remember when you endlessly asked why? That curiosity is one of the most powerful tools a team can have. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, folks.